I'm Dr. Esther Sternberg. It is a thrill to be here, back on home turf. I was a senior scientist and section chief at the National Institute of Mental Health Intramural Research Program for 27 years before I retired to the University of Arizona, and I wouldn't call it exactly retirement, to create a research program for Dr. Andrew Weil's Center for Integrative Medicine, and to create an institute on place and well-being, linking the Center for Integrative Medicine, the College of Medicine, and the College of Architecture, Planning, and Landscape Architecture at the University of Arizona. So you've heard about performance. The title of this session is focused on performance. Often we hear about stress and how we have to get rid of stress, and I'm going to tell you that you need your stress response, whether you're a zebrafish, as we heard, or a fruit fly, or a cat, a rat, a mouse, or a human, or anything in between, because your stress response is what gives you that optimal peak performance to perform and produce at task. The goal is not to get rid of stress. If I were not stressed, I'd be lying on the floor, half asleep. You'd be bored. The organizers would be stressed. I need to have my stress response at peak performance in order to perform at peak. The problem is if you go over the edge of this rainbow to extreme stress, and that's when extreme stress impacts productivity, decision-making, errors, absenteeism, sleep quality, mood. That's on an acute basis. On a chronic basis, we know that chronic stress is associated with susceptibility to a whole host of immune-related diseases. I won't go into that at the moment. So the question is, how do you optimize your stress response for the task at hand? And since we're talking about the built environment, the question is, can we optimize the physical environment, the built environment, for peak performance and well-being of the occupants in that environment? We know that place can trigger the stress response, elements of place that trigger stress, and the brain's stress response are noise, light, temperature, humidity, crowding, odors, mazes. When I was here at NIH and we did animal studies, we had to prove to the Animal Care and Use Committee that all of these features of the cages for the mice and the rats were optimized to minimize stress in those individual animals. Somehow we know that about animals. We don't know that about people just yet. Elements of place that can calm include views of nature, light, temperature, humidity, sound, fragrances, labyrinths as opposed to mazes. Labyrinths are patterns on the floor which allow you to engage in a walking meditation. If you want to see one, I recommend you go over to the National Intrepid Center of Excellence across the way. I see the Smith architects who designed this beautiful labyrinth. The military is so excited by the impacts of this kind of intervention that they're building labyrinths in all their National Intrepid Centers of Excellence across the country. So, when I was here at the National Institutes of Health, I collaborated with Kevin Campshire and his team at the General Services Administration. We asked the question, can we measure these impacts of the built environment on human physiological stress and relaxation responses, and psychological responses. We looked at these responses in old and new workspace in a retrofitted GSA building, and we found that in fact we could measure increased heart rate variability, decreased salivary cortisol in the subjects in the new space. Increased heart rate variability is a good thing. The worst pattern of heart rate variability is what? A straight line. That's no heart rate variability. You want lots of heart rate variability. Mean cortisol, we found a decrease in cortisol. So on two different measures of the physiological stress response, we were able to show a positive impact of the built environment, the new sustainable design, in reducing stress and optimizing the relaxation response, or the opposite of stress. So what is missing going forward? What is missing is understanding the environmental attributes that contribute to well-being and measuring objective attributes of health and well-being. You've heard many of the studies that people have done are based on paper and pencil or questionnaires, computer questionnaires. So the solution in our mind is to measure and develop objective, quantitative, non-invasive measures. The good news is we are, as you heard from Brian Civic, at an amazing juncture in personalized medicine where there are many devices that are coming online that are available to measure all sorts of aspects of human health and well-being. And the next stage is to layer environmental measures, which, again, environmental sensors are available, coming online to measure all sorts of indoor environmental quality aspects, to layer that onto human health and well-being outcomes. We are partnering now with the General Services Administration to develop the methods to do this, and this fits very well, pardon the pun, with the GSA's Fit Well program, where they take off, where they end, we take off, and we hope that providing the actual data will help to inform the design of the built environment to optimize human health and well-being. This also fits with the Surgeon General's National Prevention Strategy, where a very important part of this is creating healthy and safe environments and communities. We've heard in the morning about removing toxins. That's an absolute necessity. We want to go beyond that to create the built environment that supports well-being as well. This has tremendous policy implications. With developing this kind of data, we can inform the elements of design, sustainable design standards that impact human health. And what is needed in order to do this is more research, more hard data, and more evidence. Thank you.